This is the Very Lover Show of me, Josh Everton, Tom Webster in for Andy Simcox, who's away at Centre Parks, I believe, Alan Smith and Craig Wood. So we're going to discuss Neerav'S interview, which he did towards the back end of last week, sort of pulling out the headlines from that as well, discussing those, and then we're going to preview this weekend's game against Wigan. So let's get stuck into it. So, Tom, Early Bird was announced, and conveniently, in my eyes, the chairman came out and made a statement around that time, which I think it's nice to see that they've come out and addressed certain things, which a lot of key issues of fans wanting this season, and myself included, sort of the lack of accountability and sort of visibility from those in charge, especially those overseeing the transfer window and things like that. But it sort of, which all stemmed back to Mladen saying we've got a substantially bigger budget this season. But then I think a few of the things what Neerav'S said from that of saying wages have gone up 41% over sort of the last 2 years for sort of the same calibre of players. And he's also said that next season they're committed as ever, and the Reds would have a competitive budget for next season, despite being forecast to lose between 8 to 10 million quid. So there's still a substantial footfall, a substantial loss in there for them to keep pumping money in, which it always seems a little bit weird to me. If you look at Jan, where we didn't really back Darryl Clark, we've now had to pay to get rid of Darryl Clark, and then we're assessing his options for next season. On course to lose potentially up to 10 million quid, but then have a competitive budget alongside that.
Mm. We seem to be watching the pennies as the pounds roll out the door for me. I don't quite understand why we've bothered sacking Darryl Clark without really having anybody in line to take over from him. It seems quite pointless, really. And then when Neerav'S with the backing, Mladen saying he's done a really good job. Sorry, that January transfer were a stinker. I really can't. It were terrible. Okay, it started off decent, getting Farrugia in early, and then just nothing, absolutely nothing until last day of season. And then we signed Rodriguez, uh, second tier French footballer. Well, I say second tier, you couldn't actually get in their side. Um, so that alarm bells will start ringing there. And then I think Neerav'S said something like, "Oh, he wasn't brought in as a 10 to 15 goal scorer. He were brought in as a body." I seem to remember that from Doug O'Kane's um, thing. In that case, what were the point? We had bodies in door already. Leave Marsh there. It just seems absolutely pointless. If we're going to get him in, we need somebody that's going to improve his side. Um, and I just don't think we did. It was a very poor transfer window. Yeah, I'm glad Neerav'S come out and try to, talk to the fans, but he's not really accepted any responsibility. He's just sort of said, well, I put a lot of money into it, so really, you ought to shut up and put up and just get behind us. And it don't work like that, really. Yeah, I'm grateful that he puts a lot of money into the club and it's all in the form of shares. So he's not going to get that money back. It's not a loan. He's not getting anything out of it. But like, at what point? There needs to be more investment. And for me, that January transfer window, we had the opportunity to get into the top six, and we just needed a little bit more. And yeah, you can find gems in free markets and things like that, but DKD and summer just proves it. You spend a little bit on quality that and it helps. It improves the squad.
It certainly does. I mean, I know in some of the other quotes and comments that have come out of Neerav'S said, you look at Wrexham, for example, spending 2 million quid on Sam Smith. You look at Wickham turning down 6 million quid for Conor, which it's one of the things of we're not going to spend 2 million quid on a striker. We've not spent that since Ashley Ward when we got to Premier League. Still as highest transfer fee we've ever paid, which was when we got promoted. So when you look at that of sort of, we've never been a club that spent loads of money, and that's just how it's been for us because we've never sort of had them magic owners who can foot the bill and just pump money into it and money into it as such. But we can't compete with that, which I accept to a degree. But there's a level in which you can't compete. Of there's almost not trying like generally look like we did, and then there's you look at the summer where it wasn't dreadful. Of DKD came in, Robo came in. There's a couple of bits that you could look at and be like, that's all right business that's gone on there. And sometimes signings just don't work out. But January, for example, was just horrible.
Horrendous when you think where we were, weren't we? We were fifth and pushing. And the poor January window, we've seen how poor it is under our football club, and we've been on free fall, and look where we are now, 11th. If they got ambition, they should have done better in that January window. And I'm sorry, I can hear him and read what he says, but unfortunately, you didn't put your money where your mouth is to push us on there, and we should have been up there. There's no reason why we shouldn't have been pushing, and as I say, it's sad to see where we are at this moment in time after having two good seasons in League One. And the longer we end up in League One, the harder it's going to be to get out of this league. The sooner the better for me, but it is what it is. We're not pulling the purse strings. The owners are pulling the purse strings, and, he has a go at the fans, but, at the end of the day, you've not backed us.
Yeah, it's not, Craig. It's not like it's all well and good, like having some sort of communication from Neerav'S coming out and sort of saying these things. As I suppose the one good thing is that they're bringing safe standings coming in, but we're still not entirely sure when that's going to come in because it was rumored to be coming in a couple of weeks ago, and it never transpired, and still waiting for that. Which these things are all well and good around the periphery and around the edges, and when they're saying they want to get other events to Oakwell, like Callum Simpson boxing again and those kind of things, that's all well and good as extras on top of having a good season. Like, imagine how good that would be, sort of on the back of us being promoted from a season. It's one of those things and one of those gripes that it really irritates me with ownerships when they say, "Oh, what could we do to improve the atmosphere?" Quite simply, invest in a decent playing squad and a like-minded manager, as in Daniel Stendel that season, and it all comes together on its own. It's not all these other things and around the edges that they're just to enhance it, but they don't create the atmosphere and those kind of things.
Well, they originally come in when they first bought the club, and I don't know what it is with people that come into football, especially like American and foreign business owners. They'll come into a game they don't understand, and they think that just by changing things, that they can start to make it a big revenue builder. Like they can come in and they can get other events on at stadiums and improve revenues and start making money left, right, and centre. But I think it's been widely acknowledged for years and years and years that football isn't a business that you can expect to profit from unless you put heavy investment, get the team up the leagues, and then end up getting the big TV money of the Premier League. That's ultimately the only way you are going to make any money out of a football club. You've seen it with Brentford, you've seen it with Brighton, and numerous other clubs. But you have to put the investment in first. And at the minute, what we're trying to do is we're trying to thrift store our way to improving. And I'm sorry, but it's just not working. Them star players that you're expecting to get on a free, that you could get 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, every club's looking for them now. Every single club has noticed that data is something that you've got to look into to find a star player. The Moneyball thing now is being run by every single club in the league. And like I said, 5 years ago, you could have got away with that. But now people are not just doing it in the English football. They're doing it they've got scouts in every single league in the world looking for the next cheap guy who's going to, be worth 100 million in 5 years' time. Every club's doing it. So I don't understand why they still believe that they're going to be able to find players that clubs that have put more investment into it haven't. You know, we've not expanded as scouting to different areas. We've not got more scouts on board to go and actually look one on one with other players. We haven't massively invested in better training facilities in things like this. Basically, we're just expecting some guy sat on a computer, click a few buttons, and find somebody that's going to score us 25 goals a season. It's not going to happen. The other way to get up the leagues is through sheer brute force and doing a Birmingham approach, whereas you just throw money at it. But a lot more intelligent than they've been doing for the past few years. Except this year, I think they've done pretty well. But Stansfield, 15 million is way too much. But that's it. If you expect to build a business, build a brand, you have to invest first. And that's the bit that they've tried skipping. They skip the invest in it. You know, they're just like, oh, Gears ideas, Gears. Tell us how to do our job. You tell us what you expect us to do our job. It's like, no. You know, you're business people, you should know how to do this. You wanted to market us in Asia, in America, and get us big over there. They don't watch League One football. I'm sorry, but if that's you're expecting to grow as we need to be in the top league for that to happen. And it's not happened. And he's complaining and saying that he's only going to be investing for so long before he's going to say he's had enough. Well, I'm sorry, but you're either going to have to invest more now and get up the leagues intelligently, or just get off the pot and pass it on to somebody that's willing to invest. Because I'm sorry, you will not grow this club. You will not get us promoted without putting your money where your mouth is. Because every other club is trying to moneyball the way up, and it's not going to work because I mean, I think a championship club has just bought an 18-year-old for £500,000, and we went buy a senior striker for that. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, and it's just going to be a slow, gradual decline until they eventually move on, unless the mindset is changed. And I don't think I think it's too stubborn for that to happen. Because I think we're just little fans who don't know nothing about finance, don't know nothing about spreadsheets. After his interview, my opinion of Neerav'S has dropped dramatically because now he's starting to sound like we're the problem and not him.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, obviously, he came out and said fans can read a balance sheet if it's matched in the face, which not the greatest thing. But I mean, if you do look at it, the owners aren't taking money out of the club; they're only putting
No,
it
they're
in.
not.
They're only
No,
putting it
they're
in
just
to keep it
wasting
going.
it though by putting it in.
But no, it's not that. They're just doing it to keep us afloat. There's not. It's the point you said there, Craig. If it's not investment to improve us, it's just investment to maintain. Which, whilst we like we might
Actually, it's paying
maintain.
for us to get worse.
Well, no, if we're maintaining, but people are getting better,
I
like
mean,
by
league
that,
wise.
yeah. By that, we're just gonna gradually go down. But one thing which did come out to me, Tom, as a little bit of a well, as a bit of a known really of 89 of the 92 EFL clubs are losing money, and the only three that did break a profit are the ones in the Premier League, which it's one of those things of Neerav'S knew that and will have known that before taking over the majority shareholdings from Chinley and Paul Conway. So that should really be something that comes as a surprise to him that he should know he has to invest, and the level of investment, it's one of the things that's ever going to get less as such that you need to pump into a club to make it successful. So I think that one thing that I thought were a little bit sort of a weird statement for him to make of almost a shock that he had to put so much money into try to progress us, as though in a season when you've got Wrexham in here pumping loads of money in because of the way in which they've been marketed and ran by Ryan Reynolds, and then you've got Birmingham who are chucking a ridiculous amount of money towards it. Wickham have got owners who are willing to spend as well. Stockport have been very smart in the way in which they've invested and sort of continually progressed with Chellenor in charge as well. So to me, it was very obvious what we needed to do, but I just don't understand sort of why that seems to have come as a surprise to Neerav'S.
Yeah, I mean it's a very old joke of how do you make a small fortune in football? You start with a large fortune. You know, it's always been a money losing thing. it's weird that he seems shocked to have to put money into a club, and like you say, it's always just to keep his head above water rather than kind of actually favours and progresses and pushes forward. It's always just seems to be we seem to be firefighting all the time. That it's just sort of this is a problem and yeah, it, this is a problem. Let's throw a little bit of money at it and solve it now. And we don't seem to. There's no forward planning. There's no let's build for future. Let's. For me, I don't understand why. I mean, this if we weren't going to invest in January with the injuries we've had, and the Robbo's going to break down at some point because he's old. Earl seems to be constantly injured as well. He's not Hines, he played 3 games, were injured for the rest of the season, played a few games at the beginning of this season, again injured. Um, Came back a little bit, he's been injured again during January transfer window. When you're looking at that, and you just think, right, we need somebody that's just going to be there, that a backup, and we didn't bother. So if we're not going to invest and back Darrell Clark, I don't understand why we've bothered to sack him. We may as well said like, right, let's build for future. Let's give him next season. Let's give him another transfer window and try and build his team. I just don't. I don't get it, and I know it's a results-based business, but we're very unlikely we're going to go down. So we just seem to have thrown money at Darrell Clark and said, "Go on your mark." And like I said, there doesn't seem to be any forward planning at all at club. Nothing anywhere really. Think for future.
Yeah, it is it is tough, Al, when you look at it, because obviously it's not a case of, it's not that there's sort of a lack of investment. It's not like we're in sort of financial turmoil as such, of being like, oh, like administration's just round the corner as such. It's just, as Craig were alluding to, we're just putting enough money in to maintain where we are. But then when you've got the likes of Wrexham, Birmingham, coming in, sort of pushing and progressing, and wanting to work the way at the league, it's that lack of ambition for me, of especially when it's a boardroom of business people who they should have that ambition. They'll have that ambition in their businesses in which they own, and that's all people are asking for as fans, is just to see a bit of ambition. Like when we signed DKD, you're like, oh, we've got someone who chances are is going to take to a ducks of water to this league, and it'll be a good signing, and that's exactly what it's turned out to be. And it's not hard. You just need we need 2 or 3 more of them, and fans won't be as apathetic towards the club in which they are now.
Yeah, but the ambition next season, getting a new coach in, and if we get a new coach in, is he allowed to fetch his own backroom staff in? Duff wasn't, not Duff wasn't, as last coach, Darrell Clark wasn't allowed to fetch his own staff in. He had to work with the existing staff. And when you look at Championship at the moment, a foot of that, it's going to be harder in League One next season. You've got Plymouth, Luton, Derby, Cardiff, Stoke, Hull, all down there. It's not going to be easy, League One. It's going to be harder to get out of next season than it has been for the last three seasons, isn't it? So, if we're not investing, if we're not getting players in to push on, then we're just going to be a mid-table team next season. And that's going to have a big say on season ticket sales, which early birds and people are waiting to see, I think, what's going to happen, who the next coach is going to be, what's the income is going to be. And I doubt whether we'll get 4,500 season tickets before the start of the season. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it does seem like, I mean, the timing of it, Craig, does seem very much as though, not as a ploy as such, but it's one of those things of like the ownership does need to come out, and they need to come and say something of like, look, we're doing X, Y, Z to try and rectify the problems. So like we're trying to not replicate this season, which I've got no problem with that because they've got to come out and say that they're not going to come out and go, yeah, we're just aiming to survive next season. Do you want to sign up for a season ticket that cost same as last year? No, no one's going to come out and say it. So there's obviously a bit of to and fro with the messaging and things like that. But the one thing that really tickled me on say is when he backed Mladin in his comments of saying that he thinks he's done a good job, and I must say I don't know what part of his job he's done well because if you'd gone and pulled DKD from nowhere like Conor at Wickham, I'd said, you know what, fair play. There is that of I had no idea who he was. Fair play, that's a great signing. But you went and signed one of the most prolific players in League Two last season from a side that got promoted. It's not a. It's like when we signed someone up, been like, oh, what a gem you've got there of signing top scorer in league in league below. It's obvious they're going to do well. It's every other signing since then. I think we've made 14 signings this season. 2 have improved us, in my opinion, of Mark Roberts coming in for Jordan Williams and DKD coming in. That's the only 2 improvements I see. I think everyone else is just slightly worse than what we had last season.
Yeah, I don't think Hope made me laugh more than that throughout the whole interview. I think he's done poor. I think he's done very poor, in fact. Not only did he fetch in players towards the end of the year that nobody knew, nobody heard on. Manager clearly didn't know or didn't want them, but he left it till right at the end of the window. We needed these players at the start. We've needed a striker for 18 months. Since, I mean, we knew 6 months before Devante Cole left that he was leaving. That is when we should have been looking at strikers. And fair enough, we're getting goals from elsewhere. But with that striker, that could have been enough to get us over the edge. And they've not done it. And for me, that is irresponsible and shambolic from any. The striker is meant to be the best player on your team. He's the guy that will win you trophies, win you games, win you leagues. And we don't have a good one. We've got a decent one in Waters, but injuries and confidence issues seem to plague this guy. And we've not. I mean, Devante Cole last season. I mean, he got 20 odd goals in first half of the season, and then when he knew he were off, he looked after his son and didn't hardly score for the rest of the season. If he'd have carried on at that rate, we'd have been promoted without a shadow of a doubt. So that shows you what a good goal scoring striker can do. But another thing in his interview, what made me laugh, absolutely on the floor giggle, right, was when he said our squad was top 3 or 4. Right? I don't know which clubs he's looking at, by what metric he's using. I would love to see the stat sheet that this guy's reading from. Because the info he gave out for a start were false. Because there's no way Max Waters' XG is higher than Stansfield's. No way. You know, I think Adam Phillips is our highest. And this is what I'd like to say to him, right? How many supercomputers predict the leagues in this country every single year? How many get it right? I bet you it's less than 5%. Because you can have all the stats you want, but human behavior cannot be. It can't be predicted. You know, you've got 22 humans on a pitch that play a football match, 11 each on each side, and that's a lot of unpredictable ability spread over 46 games. You cannot say where a team's going to finish. Look at Leicester winning Premier League. Who could have predicted that? I bet you nobody at the start season, not one single person, apart from some guy who's probably
There
a
were a
Leicester
couple of
fan.
Leicester fans that put a few bets on it. They won a few, but there
Well,
weren't many.
they deserve the money, I'm telling you. But this is what I'm saying. They're trying to put a stats-based approach onto human behavior, and it's stupid. You can't do it. You know, especially not by the amount of things that go into a football match that you can't control. Like, even weather can manipulate a match. If wind's stronger in one direction than another.
Are you sounding like Ty from Arsenal fan TV now?
No, but this is what this is what I'm saying. It's like saying, "Oh, you're going to definitely beat them because of this reason." It's like, yeah, but there's about another 99 reasons why you couldn't. You know,
Why people
you aren't
start
even.
blaming long grass or
That's it. Yeah, I mean,
being too wet or something.
yeah, all that stuff. No, it's a real thing. I think I was watching Warnock's thing, and he said when he used to play a team that liked to pass the ball on the pitch, he'd tell the groundsman not to cut the grass, so the ball doesn't skim across as quick.
It
So,
weren't Warnock, it was Pulis.
what it pool is, I know it
Tony
I've watched
Pulis
loads, but
used to make them grow grass longer
yeah,
against Liverpool and Man U.
that's it. And this is the sort of things I'm saying. So you can't put a stats-based approach and come up with an outcome on human behavior. All you can do is put together a really good squad and hope that it gels together well. You've got a good manager that can manage the team well and make the correct decisions on match day. Make the correct squads, make the correct subs, you know, and look after the players well. And then all you do is you just got to watch and see if it happens.
I do think there is a place for stats to work to a degree of like, there's a lot of players that you wouldn't look at and like a sort of the rough diamonds in there, but it needs to be done in tandem of, like say, character. Like one thing you can't say on a stat sheet is someone's character and how they're going to sort of mesh into a squad, and the amount of players who've got terrible stats that would be beautiful in a certain squad and things like that. So it does need that nice balance between the two. And
It's got to be a balance though, because the eye test
yeah,
is a real thing. And like I say, the somebody could be seen to be running more, but if it's pointless running, then what's the point? You know, if it's somebody just jogging around for 90 minutes, they can do loads. But if it's that guy that's pressing a defender relentlessly, you know, but and you can see the desire and the passion to try and win the ball back, that is worth so much more than doing laps. I'll tell you that now, but it may show up on a stat sheet.
Tom Bradshaw test. I bet he covered 15 kilometres and one ball.
Oh yeah, busy little guy, wasn't he?
Horrible, horrible striker. Hope you're watching, Tom. Yeah, that comment about it being the third best team in the league, I thought was mental, because that either shows how massively underperforming Darrell Clark is as a manager, which he wasn't. I'll be honest. And when you look at the January transfer window as well, there might have been a point when we had the third best side. Maybe, potentially, if everyone's fit and available, maybe we might have the third best 11 on a day. But after January, but we've not had that depth all season of an 18 or an actual squad that that competes top 3, 4, top 6 for always going to be a stretch on ambition. And if we get there, and the one thing I didn't like, as you mentioned there, Craig, of that Max Waters quote is that I hated that, because that's throwing him straight under the bus. Because that's just made every fan now looks at and goes, well, he's not done a right good job, has he, this season? And I thought that would bang out of order to say it, he should have IXXG, so he should be top scorer in the league. Like you said, it's not how it works. And I'm pretty sure up until Waters came back from his recent injury, the games we'd won with him inside were like 9 or something, and we only lost 2 with him inside. Like it were almost like a crucial cog into it. And when he weren't in it, his record was more losses than wins. So I thought saying that would bang out.
But it just proved in January window our Wigan squad was when we ended up with suspensions and injuries. It really, that's what's cost us where we are now, because we haven't got the strength in depth to keep pushing on, have we? We've had Robbo out for 3, we've had MDG out for 3, and then we've got players who are injured and. He scored on Saturday, didn't he? John Lewis, but he's been injured. So, it's been a tough few months, hasn't it, for football club?
It has.
And they've not strengthened, they've weakened us.
I think it shows when you've got Conor Barrett making his debut, you've got Kieran Flavel coming in, you've got Bailey McCann come on the other day.
Bland, I think, as well.
Like, just the amount of players young players who, not in a harsh way, but they shouldn't have been put into that situation of, if you're a top 6 side who are going for promotion, you shouldn't be getting to the point of chucking 2 or 3 academy players in into a starting 11, let alone onto an 18.
I mean, to be fair on them, they've done really well, but all
Yeah,
three of them have been recalled from non-league sides. Do you know what I mean? It's like with that desperate, it's an emergency, right? We'll get some non-league players in. That's basically what we've done. It's not good. It's a poor. It's a poor thing for our club to be doing. We're basically gone looking in bargain bin, and I don't mean no offence to lads because they've done really, really well. I mean, Barrett's been fantastic. To be fair, you look at him and think, well, he probably should have been getting in front of some of the best players through season. Really, we are his played, but it's not good.
Well, you've got to think back to what they did to Jasper Moon. Fetched Jasper in, and look what he did to his career at Oakwell. It ruined him at Barnsley.
Yeah, I think that sort of. It's always the thing now. It's left a bit of a sour taste of when these young players come in and sort of being thrust into a position that they're not ready for, because obviously they always want to be there to take their opportunity and things like that. But to the point of we're relying on them to do a job week in, week out, and it's a lot to ask, as you said there, Tom, of like coming from, because it's not even like National League, or like National League North, or like National League South, and it's really Peterborough Sports where most of them were or had gone down to. That were playing it. So,
and it looks like Bland will be starting probably Saturday at Wigan because of Benson's out, isn't he? And we've not got strength in depth there.
They've done well.
I feel sorry for Jallo because I think supporters are putting a lot of their hopes on his young shoulders, and if you don't start putting numbers up and stuff, he should be able to play carefree. We are having to worry about his performances, but the club, as such, now put him in a position whereby the fans are looking to players like him to perform every week. And I'm sorry, young players shouldn't be under that sort of pressure. They should be learning their craft, not expected to pull out results just yet. And I think it's a sad indictment when we've got not just one, but probably 4 young players now in the starting lineup, possibly this weekend, that are going to be now looked at in the same way as experienced players and expected to pull a result out against a good defensive team. I mean, Flavel, I think, is doing well. That goal went through his legs, and a more experienced keeper probably would have saved that, But no, I'm not blaming him. I'm blaming the club. Yet again, it's noticing the imperfections in the team and doing nothing about it. It's like you're just hoping that more injuries don't happen, or you're hoping somebody will recover, or you're hoping that they won't get yellow cards, rather than just saying, get a lone player in, cover him. We'll spend a bit of money, we'll get him covered. And let these young players go out and learn their craft without the pressure of a stadium of, well, what is it, down to like 12,000 a game now? Staring at them and expecting them to do something.
I always think
just on that one, Craig, and I just said, now we've got the opportunity. Do you think we could blood more youngsters in? Because this season's it's over, isn't it? Let's be right. We're not making top 6. We're not getting relegated. It's just it's just going to peter out, and we're going to be finished mid-table. We think it's opportunity now to give more youngsters a go, and just to have a free hit, just let them go and enjoy yourself, because there's nothing really on the line.
We've got to be careful with Jallo, though, aren't we? Coming back, I'd give him half an hour. Don't blood him straight away after his shoulder operation. We don't want a setback. We've got to fetch him in slowly, I think. That's my opinion with Jallo. I know he's chomping.
But with regards to your question, I wouldn't, because Conor Horan is gambling on these next games to get a job as a manager, whether it's at us or somewhere else, and he will be judged on these results. So if you're putting young players in, you're not helping Conor out. He's not going to do that. He's going to put out the best available squad. We did it a couple of seasons ago. We were like, oh, just throwing youngsters, it'll be fine. And, I think there were some of the worst games I've ever seen as a Barnsley fan. If I'm quite honest, I think Jason Soraya were one of the defenders at the time. And we had Marshy up top, and we had young players in squad. It wasn't enjoyable to watch. But like I say, I want Conor to have a fair stab at it. You know, even though it's not started off well. Um, Also, going into next season, you want to try and breed a little bit of confidence before, and I think if you're just going to throw young players in for young players' sake, it's not going to do them any favors for confidence. Going in losing every week, it's not a good feeling. It's not going to be good for fans. It's not going to be good for owners. Definitely not good for owners, because they've only sacked Clark to get blame off themselves, in my personal opinion. And that interview was to sell season tickets, try and give us something to hope for next season. But I think everybody's seen through it now. They did it a few seasons ago and they've done it again now. People are starting to see that, look, stuff's got to change at the very top. But yeah, in answer to your question, some players I think deserve a chance. Dyer, Jallo, Barrett, I think's earned a spot, especially as a sub. But I think Conor will want to put out the best team he can every week.
I think it's going to be interesting because these last few games, though, as much as you say, Tom, it's something that, like, it's a chance to do that. It's also a chance to sell season tickets. If you see, like, if you have an uptick towards the end of the season, like you say, season is done. But if we can mount half a charge back towards it and finish season fairly strong, you might go, actually, under Conor, we can get a result, which it's not like it so far. But you've got something to sort of look towards and be like, oh, if we just improve here, improve there, then we might be all right next season. But yeah, one of those, if one went down and we're playing, and Devaney were playing nearly a side full of youngsters against West Brom, you're watching under 21s against a first team championship side. It weren't, like you said, Craig, it weren't nice to watch or enjoyable as such. You almost felt a bit, not sorry for them, but like they're on their own here against a bunch of seasoned pros, and it's men against boys at that point. It's a bit tricky for them. Right, get your thoughts down in the comments below on Neerav'S interview. I assume we'll be hearing a little bit more from the hierarchy of the club, especially over these next few weeks, given that they've actually started to come out now and address certain problems and issues. And I know BBC Radio Sheffield have been trying to speak to him for quite a few weeks as well since the January transfer window shut. So it's good to see at least they have actually come out and said something, although not been perfect messaging by a long shot. Right, so looking forward then to this weekend as we make the trip to Wigan. And the stats pack. So manager Ryan Lowe taking over from Sean Maloney a few weeks ago. Top scorer Taylor with 8 this season. Sat 18th in the league. Form loss, win, draw, loss, win. So sort of very inconsistent. Key player, probably the best goalkeeper in the league, Sam Tickle. Formation 4-2-3-1. And key stats. Wigan are the lowest scorers in the league so far this season with 33 goals. One less than Shrewsbury on 34. Ainsworth's just gone to Gillingham as well, actually, and just left them. So, Tom, how do you feel about this one? Because Wigan seem more or less safe. I think it's a 7-point gap they've got from drop. So they're not in sort of any immediate danger. There's a little bit of a gap. There's a couple of teams sort of in and around there already, but they're still going to need a couple of more points on board between now and end of season to feel safe and actually achieve safety. But low scorers in the league, it feels like one of those where there's a chance where we can be a little bit more confident going forward that we might not concede. Although low scorers in the league also got one of the best defences, conceding 36. So I think they're minus 3 goal difference. So they're quite sure at the back.
Yeah, and we seem to be quite leaky at the back and struggle to score as we did against Cambridge in last game. Well, I thought we played quite well. We were basically cutting their half. We just lacked the fucking edge. Yeah, I don't really know on this one. I don't. Connor's desperate for a win. He needs to get that win. What personnel is available to him? I mean, Benson were playing as right back for the last 2 games, and now he's injured. So we are down to bare bones of a team. Like you said, we're playing academy players that have been recalled. I don't know. I think it's going to be a struggle, to be honest with you. Quite a boring game. I don't. I think it's just. I don't think it's going to be an high scorer. I think it could be quite a dull affair.
You know, exactly selling it. It's a good job you're not in charge of marketing or promotion for this game.
I'm going to buy a season ticket no matter what. So I'm not here to sell season tickets. It's just, it is what it is, isn't it?
That game is hype, man, if it's cheap enough.
And so I'm not sure you'll be taking off a job at stadium announcer anytime soon. Players are coming out onto the pitch. They've all lined up. You Reds. I think you'll be...
I wouldn't even bother with that. I'd just be like, coming out again. What's the point?
Second half starting. Good luck. Al, as Tom said there, we're a bit leaky in defence. It's not really, we've not seen sort of the improvements we would have liked to have seen sort of defensively under Conor. Still look a little bit shaky back there. But like Tom said, Conor really just probably wants to get that first win. And especially something that just to almost get like a bit of the weight off his shoulders of what he's taking on, because I don't think anyone's expecting an immediate turnaround in form as such, because we're still the same playing staff. You still look at the amount of young players we're having to sort of utilise on a weekly basis. So his hands are tied a lot by that. But I think there's almost an expectation of there will be some sort of change, which we've not really seen too much yet.
I think there will be. I think Russell will come back in personally. I think Johnny will be back in. Pines will be dropped. Hopefully Roberts is back after his concussion. So there's a couple of changes, in personnel there. When we played them in 23rd of November, they scored just before half time. I think it was Asgard 42 away across what come over a header. So we didn't give him a game. I don't think that day, did we? But we've got to get back to winning ways away from home, and he's got to pick his best side, hasn't he? What he's got available to him. Because away from home, we've been top notch. But as I said, we haven't won away from home since 22nd of February at Rotherham, and that was a penalty. I mean, there were no goal from open play, were there? So we're struggling in open play to score away from home now, which is a worry. It is a big worry, and it's not an easy ground to go to. I remember we were there last game one season, didn't we? And when they won title and we beat them 4-1. But I don't think it's going to be like that on Saturday.
No, we're a heck of a day when we beat them 4-1, which I think we needed that to secure sixth. And I'll be honest, their keeper, I think he'd enjoyed his weekend before, his few days before a winning league, because I've seen some bad goalkeeping displays, and I've given a few in a miss end, but that was terrible. Craig, how do you feel for this one? Ryan Lowe just coming in, I think 1 or 2 games he's managed now since Sean Maloney were relieved of his duties, which I think seems to come as not a bit of a shock, but I don't think Wigan fans were necessarily enthralled at that in a way. I think I've seen a few sort of question the decision, but manager Ryan Lowe's sort of ability and what he's shown already, it's almost a smart decision to get someone in who's almost like a bit of a sure bet to improve you.
Yeah, it seems like the ownership of their club saw a manager who had potential of improving the team, and they went out and did something rather than just sack a manager in the middle of a period and just wait till the end of the season to do anything about it. So, how people run the clubs, This game, how do I feel? I think it's going to be boring as sin. I think we've got 2 teams that don't like scoring, and ultimately we're away, so it gives me a touch more happiness about it, because if we're at home, it'd be a guaranteed loss. I think Rob Lowe's a really good manager. I wasn't surprised that Maloney got sacked. he should be doing a lot better with the team he has. Ultimately, that's best goalkeeper in league, one of the best wingers when it comes to goal output and goal and assists and things. A really good defensive pair in Kerr and Amerson. See that Amerson were a bad club a couple of seasons ago, playing really well. They went out, spent money, and they've both been outstanding this season. Kerr is somebody we tried to sign, I think, 4 seasons ago when we were at Championship, and we missed out on him. So yeah, I don't think Connor's going to get his first win against them. If I'm quite honest, I think a draw is probably going to be the best we can hope for. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. Like I say, I think it's going to be boring. I'm going down Tom's route here. And just, if you fancy going out somewhere this Saturday afternoon, anywhere else but a football match, to be quite honest, I'm sure a stroll at Park could have a bit more fun in it. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it, especially if he's going to put out a bunch of kids. Because I don't think this is a match where they're going to get any joy.
Albion, you two should just take off a promotion of any game that ever comes up, because you can suck the life out of any potential improvement.
I was just going to say, I thought I was depressing, and then Jake started.
I want to see what Josh is going to do then to
Josh
put
quickly,
some joy.
can we put Samaritans out on my depressed entire fan base here?
Look, positive Alia.
No, I can't wait. Al's prediction will be 6-1 to Wigan then. just to balance it out with listeners. Predictions, Tom?
I'm going for a draw, I think, 1 apiece. I think
a boring 1-1 draw.
A boring 1-1 draw. I think we're guaranteed to concede because it's us. I think we might just nick a goal. But yeah, I think 1-1.
Do you know what? It's the way you've sold that as well. I've been like, we'll concede because those do. We might nick a goal. Who knows?
I've got no confidence. There's nothing. There's nothing you can hang your hat on. There's DKD. Will drop his shoulder and put one in corner, and that's it. That's what we're relying on.
Or finding Phillips
maybe Phillips firing a rocket in, but I think we're relying on players and key moments rather than build-up play, and that's what I find hard. Some games we might have 3 or 4 magical moments and score 3 or 4 goals, but then nothing. So I don't know. I'm thinking 1 apiece.
You really can't sell a game. You should be a boxing promoter. You'd be absolutely terrible. Al?
It's behind me. That's what I'm going for. Smith says
12-0.
12-0.
1-2. 2-1. Away win. 2-1. It's there. 1-2.
There you go. Ryan Lowe.
2.
Not to try and sway your thing, Al, but it is Ryan Lowe's first home game in charge.
Well,
you're thinking.
We can scupper that. We can sort him out.
We are known for it as well. We're not known for being generous to sides about winning 14 and then we give a win. We haven't done that this season, have we? Craig?
If we were under Clark, I would have said 1-0 to Wigan. But under Horan, I would have said 2-0 to Wigan. Just because, not because I think he's a worse manager, but because I think Conor is a bit more gung-ho than when we're behind. I think he's willing to throw more bodies forward. And I can just see us getting counted all day. It's going to be a rough day to be Flavel, to be quite honest. So I'm saying 2-0 to Wigan.
Honestly.
Right, put a positive spin on that, Josh. There you go.
Watch this, because we're going to win 3-1.
Hold on. I'll move it. 3-1.
Cheers, Al. 3-1. Easy. Wigan aren't good. They're 18 for a reason.
They don't concede, and we under Horan, whenever we've gone behind, we just throw bodies forward.
Exactly. So 1-0 down.
Look, Craig, he's had a couple of weeks to sort it out now, to get it right. It's teething problems are finished.
Hey, I go for what I see.
We've got
nice. Hello.
We've got Max Watter, who's got highest XG in the league, according to our chairman.
Oh no, no!
He's due. If he delivers on his XG, we'll be top at league by 30 points. That's problem.
He needs to score about 15 goals per game on average.
He's due a goal now. 3-1, easy. Right, get your predictions down in the comments below. Before we go and leave you, we are just passing on a message from Wigan Athletic as well, which you've seen. So prior to the game on Saturday, there will be minute's applause at the Brick Community Stadium for Darren Orme, who was a Wigan fan who unfortunately lost his life. So there is a minute's applause prior to the game. So if you are making the trip across to Wigan at the weekend, make sure you get behind that and get involved. And yeah, we'll see you on Sunday when we're back with our reaction to the Wigan game. We'll see you there. Neerav'S.